Do you ever regret having your life filmed when you were a kid? Like, do you ever think about that? Do you ever think about when you were 13, 14, 15 years old? Do you ever look back and go, wow, I really wish that I didn't have to film that? All right, welcome back to the Raising Heights podcast with Zach and Tori. I'm Tori.
I'm Zach.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Back for episode 3.
If you are coming back for episode 3, thank you for listening and being with us. We have a bit of a doozy today.
We do.
What are we talking about today?
I think we're going to talk about the show.
Which is Zach's favorite topic.
Which it's not. You are listening on a podcast and can't see my facial expression.
False.
Yeah, false.
But we feel like there's a pretty large elephant in the room. And so we're going to talk about it today. We're going to discuss all the things about the TV show.
Yeah. So, but first off, peak and pit.
Peak and pit. So what's your pit?
My pit.
Which is also my pit. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yes. I had to get new tires. I woke up and I drove down the driveway and got on the highway and realized my tire was flat. And so I had to drive to Les Schwab. I drove home, filled up the tire, and then drove to Les Schwab. Turns out I needed 4 new tires. When you have an all-wheel drive, one tire means you gotta change them all. Well, I thought maybe they just patched the one tire. Well, no. He calls me up. He goes, "You need to get all new tires." And I'm thinking it's some sales pitch or whatever. And this guy's super monotone and just blank. And he's like, "No, your tires your back 2 tires are splitting.
Busted at the seam.
Yeah, they're about to pop. You need to get new tires right away. You don't have to buy them here, but you need to get new tires." And I'm like, "No, let me go feel them." Anyway, I go out there, feel them. And they're splitting apart.
And what was the question that he asked you?
What?
He goes, "Have you had a lot of weight in this car?"
Yeah. Well, that was an alignment. That was with I got an alignment also. And that was the alignment issue.
Because we're trying to build our home gym. So there's also been a lot of weight being pulled in this Subaru.
So I needed to buy 4 new tires this week, which is always a bummer. Unexpected expense.
Not cheap.
So yeah, that was my pit. That was a bummer. And I was just about, but my peak is we're building our home gym. And I finally found dumbbells on Facebook Marketplace for $1 a pound. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so most weight was going for $1.50, $2 to $1.75. And I found
also, by the way, I said, because I had no idea, you tell me how much they are per weight. And I'm like, that means nothing to me. I said to a friend yesterday that you found weights for $1 a weight, and they were like, "No."
Yeah.
They were stoked for you.
Yeah. There's an awesome place down in Corvallis. Awesome. Yeah. So I found dumbbells for $1 a pound. Anyway, so I was about to drive down there, and then luckily, so honestly, the peak also was finding the tire before I got down there.
Before your tire blew up on the side of the road somewhere.
But, that was 2 hours, 3 hours of my day. And then, I drive down to Corvallis, which is a 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
And then 2 hours back up. So that was the peak. That was at the pit. The tires are the pit. The weight is a peak. Second peak. Can I do a second peak?
Ooh, we have 2 peaks today, people.
We finally sold the bed.
Oh, to the sweetest little. Yeah,
yes.
The sweetest mom.
On Facebook Marketplace, or maybe that was a Craigslist. It was through our Craigslist. We've been trying to sell Jackson's old bed.
Which is kind of like a moment. I did have this moment when he was picking up the weight. So I was home alone. And they came to pick it up. And I did have a moment of, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
There's so many memories with this bed. This was our first baby's big boy bed.
It was taking up so much space. And Jackson and Josiah share a room.
So, and they love their bunk beds.
Yeah, it's Josiah's first bed will be the bunk bed.
Yeah.
His big boy bed.
But it was that. It was definitely a moment of oh my gosh, I'm giving away. It was not the crib, not that level, not giving away the crib, but it was a solid second to giving away a crib. We're never giving away our crib. But.
Oh, didn't we?
No. Josiah's still in it.
Oh, duh. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay.
No, the crib I'm probably going to want to keep to give to one of the kids later on. Anyway.
And Tori did a Craigslist deal.
Which is not my forte. I hate when Zach does Craigslist deals. I'm just going to be honest. It stresses me to my core. I don't enjoy it.
But Tori did it.
I did it.
I called up the lady and she was super sweet.
The sweetest mom. And like her son was turning 3 and they were going to have this bed for him tomorrow. And
see, you hear awesome stories through Craigslist.
But like every once in a while you get some wackadoodles.
I know, but I made a game day decision, called you up, said, I'm not going to make it. Can we still do the deal? You said yes. I did it. And so we cleared out our garage.
Yep. There's a lot of peaks happening.
Got some dumbbells.
Yep.
So we were talking about the pit. We don't need to get depressing again. Well, it was a good week.
The tire was a pit.
Yeah. It was. But what's your peak?
My peak this week. I don't know.
Did I kind of
There was like, it? Yeah, you kind of like, you nailed it. I can't get much better than that.
What's a peak?
Getting my car back. That's been a peak. I haven't been able to drive my car because of the ice storm.
I agree.
And we had swim yesterday. Like we were kind of back to real life. I think that's probably my peak is we've been like stuck at home, snowstorm, ice storm. And I was able to spread my wings.
Yeah.
So that's been a good peak.
Love it. Good week.
Okay. Here we go.
Yeah, getting into it.
Okay, so I feel like let's just talk about the elephant in the room. Are we coming back to Little People, Big World?
We are not. And we made that.
We are not.
Yeah, we made that pretty clear the last
But I don't think that's
cycle.
been like officially announced to people. Like we are not coming back to Little People, Big World. Like we are done. That part of our lives, that chapter has closed. Which
I think the chapter has closed regardless of us being asked back or not.
Right.
And like, we've made it pretty clear we're done with that chapter for multiple reasons. The reasons we will get into here. But because we've made that pretty clear, we also they haven't asked us back.
That's
technically.
True. That's factual.
But this last cycle was rough.
It was
between the family, the farm deal, and we were done with it. It's hard to put everything into a project that you no longer believe in. And I feel like this last season for Little People, Big World, that kind of happened. It was no longer a project that we really believed in. And so the last year was hard. Yeah.
It was hard to show up every day for it.
Yeah, it was tough. It's unfortunate because you had such a run there. Yeah. In my opinion, though, like...
Well, let's not get depressing right away. Let's like state some facts here. So
I thought we wanted to get depressing first and then end on a high note.
Oh, is that what we wanted to do?
That's what I said.
Well, let's start that's actually a very good way to look at it. However, look at like, how long have you been doing... Like, how old were you when you started doing the show?
We were like 13, 14... I don't like saying we, the family.
Yeah, your family.
I was 13, 14 when we did our first episode.
Who discovered you?
I don't know.
Oprah Winfrey. Didn't Oprah Winfrey discover you guys?
No.
Didn't she do the pilot with you guys?
No.
Oh,
no.
Just kidding. I don't know. Oh, so maybe she saw you after the pilot? That's always been my,
She didn't see anything, for starters. Her producers and her network and our network talk and said, promote these people.
I love how when we talk about this, like in a formal setting, you downplay it.
No,
but when
I'm not downplaying it.
He was like, yeah, I was on the Oprah Winfrey show.
I'm just not being dramatic about it. Yeah, no, I was on that, but it's not how.
Okay,
Oprah doesn't like... It's done differently than that and how you're addressing it. And I think she was later on. Like the show had already aired. And it was when someone has a book coming out or a show coming out, you go
on these shows.
Yeah, you go on all the talk shows to promote it.
Got it.
I think it was more that. I don't remember much. That's the thing.
Right.
Looking back on this, I was a child, a teenager. Mm-hmm. And so it's like remembering certain things is difficult under a different lens.
That's true. Yeah. But either way, it's been a long time. Like you've been a part of the show for, what is that, 20 years? It's been 20 years of your life if you started when you're 13 and you're 33.
Oh, yeah. It was a little on and off.
You've known the show more than you haven't known the show.
Yeah.
Like which is wild.
Yeah. Being on television is what I know. That and all the experiences that come with that.
Right.
Was our mindset. And there's ups and downs for sure.
I mean, we got married. I remember when I first met you, that was a huge discussion whether or not I would be on the show. I remember we kind of were like, no, this is not really what we want to do. Do you remember that? like, I remember being super hesitant to be on the show because I was your first girlfriend and I didn't want to be the one that's breaking Zach's heart on national television.
I think I was probably hesitant too. Like that.
Yeah, I think you were too.
I wasn't a big PDA person,
but then do you remember what got me on the show? Like, do you remember what we finally were like, okay, I'll film?
No, I don't remember any of this.
You don't remember any of this? I'm so glad we're doing this. Your family was going on a trip to Australia. Right?
That wasn't your first experience on camera though.
Not Australia, but leading up to that. That was like the first time that I was like, well, maybe I could like jump in for a sec.
Yeah, no, you were
It was like a little selfish.
Because you were on episodes though before that though.
What, like, was I though?
Yes. We have to know these things. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I just remember being like, I don't want to film. And then you were like, oh, I'm going to Australia. Do you like want to come? And then I remember being like, well, maybe I could film. Maybe I could do it this one time.
You filmed, but like maybe you weren't all in on it.
Yeah. I was so nervous. I was like, and I was pretty shy. Nothing like I am now. Like I wasn't very outspoken and I was pretty quiet.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You were very.
Zach always says that like I married him and like nothing has changed, but everything has changed for Zach.
Yeah, Tori was very shy and humble, soft. I say this in an episode, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Soft spoken and just nice, aware, sweet.
Well, okay, I'm nice and aware and sweet. Hold on. Hold on. But I'm definitely a lot more outspoken.
Mama bear, my way or the highway, this or that, particular. Go with the flow as long as you know what the flow is. You know?
But like where is the flow? Like,
when does the flow start?
But like, is there parking?
Yeah. So okay, yeah. Australia was a big one. I think that kind of launched us. But we went on a date at Rock Creek.
But see, I think we went on a date so that you could ask me if you could go to Australia.
That was probably okay. You're right. It's hard to remember what was on camera.
It all blurs together.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's been a long time though. There's been so many great things that have come from the show, but then there's also been some things that are not so great. So we want to end on a high note. So maybe we talk about the things that were not so great, or maybe like what's the reasons that we left.
There's a lot of reasons. I think having kids, there's a time on it. There's a clock on it.
Yeah.
I don't think I was super convinced. Like when you're working on a television show like this, it's not the same as your dad or your mom working for Nike or something. Mm-hmm. And your dad or mom, I'm going to use the dad as an example. Your dad goes to work and works and gives the money to the family and the family spends it, or he spends it on the family. Mm-hmm. And that's the model, When you have a family on television like that, everyone is hypothetically doing the work.
Yeah.
Like you are, when everything is created, bought by the entire family's work, that model right there. So, and there's a dependency now on your family, your kids to perform at a certain time. And that's easy for me to say now because of what I've already done, in my opinion, what we have done.
But like
financially, everything like that, what my family has done, I'm now able to maybe hold that line. Mm-hmm. But yeah, having the kids, be a part of the work,
Right. And that was always really difficult. But I also want to say though that our producer was great. Our producer had kids. He understood. And so when our kids were in these moods where they were like, I don't want to be a part of this, everyone was always very receptive to that. It was always very the kids aren't into this, let them go.
For me though, the pressure was still on.
Right.
And I knew what was happening. I knew a production day cost X amount of dollars. Right. I knew what just happened. Yes, obviously no one, it's 21st century for starters, right. But also no one was going to pressure the kids into doing something, openly like that. But also deep down, everyone knows what this is. It's a business.
Right.
Anyway, so not having the kids.
Okay, I want to ask you this question then, because I feel like this might help clarify, or not clarify, but bring light to. Do you ever regret having your life filmed when you were a kid? Like, do you ever think about that? Do you ever think about when you were 13, 14, 15 years old? Do you ever look back and go, wow, I really wish that I didn't have to film that?
Yeah, there's episodes that I regret, and there's things I've said that I regret. I think overall, would I do it over again and not do the show? Obviously, now that I know as an adult, no, I don't think I would do it over. For sure, I wouldn't do it over.
You wouldn't?
Or
That's actually
my bad. Sorry. I would do it again.
You would do it again.
Yes.
Okay.
Based on where I'm at right now, I would do it again.
Right.
But there are definitely parts that I wish
that you would change. Do you think then, and I again, I'm asking this to help everyone who's listening. I think that pulled a really large portion of our reasoning for maybe not doing the show anymore was our kids, was we were having these conversations about like, do you think that they're going to be proud of this product when they're 30 years old and sitting talking to somebody? Do you think that they're going to be, because they don't have a choice. They don't have a choice if they
totally, or they could look at it also and be like, Mom, Dad, you guys are idiots. Like,
why'd you leave?
Why didn't you keep that train? I don't care how you were feeling.
But it has gotten to this point where our oldest, Jackson, he has voiced his opinion on things that he doesn't want to be a part of with filming or the show. Like there have been certain things that he has asked not to share. And I think that as a parent, we've really taken that to heart of like having to stand back and look at the whole picture. And I think that was a huge reason for us stepping away.
That was one of the reasons, because it also is not our kids' burden. Yeah. I'm not going to look back and say we didn't do this because of you guys. That's not their burden to carry.
Oh, sorry. You're
or anything like
right.
that. But yes, watching the kids grow up, Jackson's opinion on it started to change. He wasn't a fan.
Well, I think that like for me though, too, as a mom, when you have people constantly asking you about all the negative things in your life, like because they want drama, they want, and like for us, we're not very dramatic people. And so it always turned to like health issues and talking about our kids' health issues and your health issues. Yeah. And it got to this point as a mom that I'm like, I don't want to talk about everything that could go wrong in my kids' lives. Like I want to talk about and celebrate what they are about and like the things that they're interested in. And that was hard for me.
That's what media is tough though. Even podcasting is tough. Like I exactly know how we can get X amount of views every episode. I know exactly what we need to talk about, and it would be, done. Resisting that though does take, I don't know, a power or a responsibility, a self-control, whatever you want to call it. Right. I do resist it though. I resist, I think reality television, to your point of they're always, not them, that the industry of reality television in itself, the way TV is structured, you have commercial breaks. Yeah. You have 30 minutes of an episode, every commercial break has to have a climax or a plot,
a twist,
a twist. Drama, what's make you keep the channel on, and I don't think the model, that's not realistic, like everyone I think knows that they watch reality television just for entertainment. Right. I don't think now, especially reality television has been for how many years, no one's actually watching this going, this is 100% true. I think there's a realness to our show. Right. But then with TV, cameras in the room, that puts a different emphasis on certain things that's not real. Yeah. Like they brought a different context to things.
Because I think you should talk about that. Like talk about when you guys first started doing the show. My example,
when you have a kid, parents are watching this, when your kid loves attention. Okay, all kids love attention. They want mom and dad's attention or someone's attention. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's normal. And then you're in a room, your kid's in a room playing Legos with you. Plus there's 4 other adults in that room. They have cameras on and audio packs and everything. Well, the shot's over or it's lunchtime. There's a business side to this too. And they've got their shot of the kid playing Legos. And the 4 adults just walk out because it's over. It's lunchtime. Okay, how does that kid feel?
That kid's now sitting there thinking,
what did I do? I was getting what I needed, and now it's done.
What did I do incorrect to make these adults walk away?
And this is not a hit on Like, this is all normal. You know, I'm not saying we should have done it differently or they should have done it differently. Like, that's normal.
Right.
But that's part of doing reality television. So the reality is the kid was playing Legos. Whatever he does after that, though, is based off that feeling of he's trying to search for that attention again. Yeah. And that might be a crying or a fit. And now we're filming the fit. Is that fit real?
Right.
Or what context created that fit? The context of people in the house that aren't family. So yes, it's reality television, you know. But
there has to be some dramatic.
Under the context of reality. It's reality under the context of reality television.
Right.
It wasn't them saying have a fit, you know.
Right.
But does that make sense?
Totally.
So
do you know what that makes me think of, though, is a particular episode that I can remember watching? Because I think when you have your first kid, you're very protective of your first kid.
Yeah.
You're protective of all your kids. But like, I remember when we first started filming with Jackson, and Jackson was
he was a very good kid.
Oh, he was
very
so
good baby.
good. And so
I know everyone says that. I will say straight up to you, Jackson
so good.
Was a fantastic baby.
He was so easy.
We
so
flew to Atlanta first class
Yeah.
for a TV thing, a TLC thing. He was 1.5.
I don't even remember.
Like, this kid, that's a 5-hour flight.
This businessman turns around and he goes, "Oh, I didn't even know there was a toddler behind me."
No,
yeah,
superior.
Anyway. So that was all. I was always, as his mom, very protective of how people perceived him, because I'm like, this kid is so easygoing, like, just great. Like, he's so great. And I remember one episode, we went to dinner to an Italian restaurant or something, and it was a fancy restaurant. We brought Jackson with us, and he was just a baby. He was probably only he was still in his little carrier, so probably like 6 months old. And we forgot the binky.
Oh, yeah.
And I can remember this dinner. I remember us like panicking. We're like, oh my gosh, we forgot the binky. This is going to be like
a little first parent thing.
Yeah, a little first parent thing. However, that kid sat through that dinner at this fancy restaurant and didn't make a peep.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But in the episode, they made it seem like he cried through the whole episode, like the whole dinner. And I can remember getting offended by that. I'm like, that's not how that went. That's not true. My kid sat through
otherwise
there.
The dinner's boring.
Otherwise the dinner's boring. Who cares if they forgot the passy?
And more people can relate to a child crying during dinner than not. Like, you don't have an episode. Otherwise, it's boring. You know, so
and they would do that with they would do that with Lila, Lila's a different kid. She's not as easygoing, and she is a little bit more emotional. However, they're like, when she didn't cry and they made it seem like she was being difficult, I would get so mad. I'm like, this is not.
You have 5 other tries.
Oh, so many other things that you could use that were factual, not this. You know, so it did get to this point
with
where
kids on reality television, it is tough.
It's tough,
and that was one of the reasons. Easy reason.
And I think our oldest Jackson, again, I mean, I feel like bad for him because I feel like he's been the guinea pig for everything in our lives, like parenting, everything. And you know, he's
growing up with us. You know,
like, he's like helping us figure it out just as much as we're helping him figure it out. And
that's for all firstborns, in my opinion.
I think that, you know, he was 4.5, so he was Lila's age, and he had major leg surgery. And it was like he was an even keel kid, so I'm not going to say it was traumatic for him, because it wasn't. I mean, he was pretty easygoing about it. However, can I say it? When he had leg surgery, and he shared it on national television because of us. Like, it wasn't really,
we shared it.
Like, he didn't consent to it. We decided to share it. And fast forward 2 years, and he broke a screw, and he had to go in and have a second surgery. And the world doesn't know that because we didn't share it, because he asked us, he asked us specifically, can we not film it?
Yep.
He did not want the filmers. He called them the filmers. He did not want the filmers to come to the hospital or to be there when he got home. And Zach and I had this conversation of like, that's the law. Like, that's what it is. Jackson has specifically asked us.
We're also in a very blessed position, though, that we are able to confidently say that. I know that would have boosted the ratings. A hospital surgery isn't
but
easy.
It wasn't worth it to us. Like, it wasn't worth it to us to.
We were able to say no. And that started the conversation.
And I think that really started the conversation between us of like, well, maybe our kids don't want to share things, you know? Yeah. And I think that we're living in this generation where access to the internet and social media is so prevalent. And that's, I think even like, I mean, Jackson's so aware of it. Like they're like, he'll do like a Spider-Man move in slow motion on my phone and he'll go, Mom, you can share that. Like you can send that.
And that's a lot of kids though. I think a lot of parents right now, our generation are all battling.
Crazy generation.
So we have the reality television situation, but then there's social media.
We're already oversharing things. And so then to add a reality television show into it, it was like, oh gosh, like we're really
not
oversharing.
Against sharing our kids on social media. Yeah. Talk about them on a podcast but it's under our influence, our control. There's a difference there.
Because I think that that's another thing too that we've often talked about with social media is, you know, when I video our kid, like if our kids are throwing a tantrum, I don't pull out my phone.
Yeah.
That like, so I've seen it on social media. Some parents will pull out their phone and think it's funny or film their kids being upset. And that's something that we absolutely would never do. Like we would never pull that out. And I feel like on reality TV show, they look for that. Like they
make sure
look
that's something we would never do or have never done.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we have, then we have repented.
Please forgive us. We're not perfect. Yeah.
Okay. So the kids is, you know, the family's growing up. You and I are growing up. It's time to move on. I look at it also. I'm 33. You know, it's time to move on. It's time to find something else. It's time to take a break, separate from my family, which is, it's well documented. The farm deal went through and just other things, in my opinion. For me, this is my feelings. I'm the last sibling standing on the show. Like the clock was ticking when the other siblings, for all their valid reasons, chose to step away. And so the clock was already ticking, and I felt like things also, though, weren't changing the way they should have. We were still doing things in the old way. Yeah. So that wore on me a little bit. That pressure to be this middleman in between my mom and dad,
and talk about them constantly.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk about them. I didn't want no one else does that at 30. You know, everyone like that's the thing. Put yourself in my context. Like, do you know?
Also put yourself in my context, because I'm like, do you want to talk about your in-laws every single day of your life?
Yeah.
And I feel like it was getting to this point that, I mean, TV, reality in general, I've seen time and time again, families be torn apart by reality television. Granted, I don't know that I can necessarily say that the TV show itself was the reason why X, Y, and Z happened, because I think that relationships are sticky and relationships are complicated already. And then
it wasn't helping it.
It wasn't helping it in any way. And I think that Zach and I kind of looked at it, or at least I looked at it as like, I don't want that to be me. I don't want that to be my relationship with my husband or my in-laws. Like, I think that it was getting to this point where when you talk about your in-laws constantly, you start and you hear people gossip. Yeah. People gossip. It's human nature. People say things that were never meant to be heard by the other person. Right? I've said that a lot. Like, it's human nature to just say things and they're never supposed to be heard by the person that you were talking about. Right?
Totally.
However, when you have a TV show, you hear those things, and that's really difficult to watch back an episode and have people constantly giving input on your life, constantly giving input on other people's lives, and that
shows
wears
the bad
on you.
Communication though too between everyone. Like, you're able to tell a producer that, but you haven't said that to that person's face. It's like a passive aggressive.
It is.
It's between all of us. It's just reality television.
I just think that in normal life, you gossip and you talk about things, even if it's not malicious, even if it's just like stating simple facts, but it's still never meant to reach the ears of that person. And I think that, like, I think about when we first moved up here, everyone like clearly was not in support of that. But when they came here, they all were very much like, oh, this is awesome. This is so great. But then you'd see them drive away in the car and be like, wow, Zach and Tori, good luck. Like, that place is kind of
it's hard to,
mess.
Well, okay, in relation to reality television, though, is that what they think, or is that reality? Is that just TV? Is that them working? And that's what's hard to decipher too when you're dealing with family. When do you tell between work and they're just playing the part, they're doing what they need to do,
100%.
Or my problem also, here's another issue that I had. I don't feel like this is not normal. Like guys, if a guy's watching this, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I know our insights don't indicate that, but show your husband this part, boyfriend, whatever.
Right.
Ask him something like, "How was it hanging out with the guys?" He'll probably say, "It was cool." What'd you guys do?
It was good.
We played darts.
Yeah.
Who won? Joey did. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's about it.
Yeah.
No, terrible TV. That's the most boring television I've ever heard. So they'll ask me, "What'd you do?" And you have to almost talk about it in an unnatural way, because one, you have to explain to the viewers who weren't there what it was, so you have to talk almost unnaturally in a way. And just for guys, or you had to say things multiple times, because they would ask you more. This is, again, not a hit on reality television. This is normal. They have to every commercial break, you have to kind of remind the viewers what they were watching. Yeah. So you say it again. I was playing darts with Joey. Once you say it 3 times, it almost takes on a new meaning. Right. It's like, it almost sounds like I care way more than I do. Right. And it makes you uncomfortable, because you're like, I keep saying this, but the more I say it, it's like, I really don't care about playing darts with Joey. You know? I don't know a Joey, so that's why I'm using that name. Yeah. Here, okay.
Well, and I think that one of the things.
Or sorry, do you get my point though?
No, 100%.
That wasn't also. That's a more of a petty annoyance of doing the show.
But I think what I was going to say is, I think though that also something that people might not know about Zach is Zach can remember what he says and what other people say to a T. You are very good at you don't fake it. You don't say what you don't mean. You don't mince your words. You're very specific about what you want and what you think. And so when you have and I'm not good at that. I'll say something and then the next week I'm like, wait, what did I say? Or I'll say something totally different. And it's just people don't make sense. So, but to add to your point though, when you have a producer asking you questions in your mind, you're like, I've already answered this and I've already answered it in this way. Yeah. Where I think then the average person, I might answer it 7 different. That's why they ask that many times, because I might answer the question 7 different ways.
I'll say it the same way every time.
You will.
This is actually a small. Can we do a little deviation of our marriage? Tori does this. This is so true. Tori will say, "I like it when the pillows are there." Or wherever they are on the side of the couch. And so the next time I clean, I'll put the pillows on the side of the couch. She'll come up 2 days later and be like, "Why the heck are the pillows on the side of the couch?" And it's I'm learning from you constantly how to be a better teammate in this marriage. Okay. So when you say things, I'm going to take them. Okay.
Right. I think I'm an external processor. I'm going to
adjust, and then you have to know, but then you responding in annoyance that I would do. Not only not remembering that you said it, but also offended that I would do such a thing. It's just,
but I think that's I'm an external processor and I talk things out verbally. That's how I get through my life. What do we call it? Word vomit. I word vomit all over the place. It's absolutely disgusting.
Okay. Anyway,
where did we get on this rabbit hole from?
The show. So the kid, we talked a lot about the kid, but then the little nuances and annoyances, then the family, dealing with the family dynamics is just time. It's, in my opinion, we needed some adults in the room, myself included. And we did not have that. And we've been searching for that for a long time. Yeah. And it's time to finally say,
I think that there's been a lot of cases that accountability was not taken.
Accountability was not taken. People can say, well, the money's good. This is good. To get a television show on TV is so hard. You guys have it all. And I'm saying this in a position of, we're blessed. We are able to say no, we're going to walk away for our own health, our own family,
our own relationship, personal relationship,
and the consequences, so be it. Say we're not in a good position in 5 years financially. That's just, eventually you got to care about other things than money, and materials. Yeah. I hope this podcast opens up doors though. And that's the thing. Sometimes you don't see doors when you're comfortable, when you are 100%. Comfortable, or you're not looking for them because you're comfortable, so maybe it is, I'm still young enough in my opinion that let's get uncomfortable for a minute. I've never been uncomfortable in a financial materialistic way. Right. So it's like, it's time to maybe do that. And, it's easier now than the older I get, 40, it's going to be harder, you know? So eventually it's time to,
cut
say,
the cord and move on.
And recreate something maybe we stay in media. I'm not saying I'm not doing TV again or media again, but it's not under the context of Little People, Big World.
Your family. Like, it's just like the separation of, we are now also, how many different families? There's 4, 5, 6 different families within the Roloff family. Like, yes, it's one name. However, there are 6 different entities, units that have been branched off that we all have to just move on. Like, we need that space. And I think that, like, I think it just became obvious too. Like, everyone can see it. Well, and I think that that's the thing though too, is there's so much speculation on the internet about the reasons, like, that we all hate each other and that no one gets along. And there's all of these these assumptions being made about our family.
Some of the assumptions are true though.
Some of them are very true.
Yeah, some of them, like, I read some of them where I'm like, in my opinion, I'm like, but you know what you're talking about.
I feel like we've walked away from the show. We've been away from the show for 6 months now. And already those relationships have started to, like, come back. They'll never be the same. No. It'll never be what it was, unfortunately. But I do feel like it was also time for us to move on, because I didn't want, personally, to hate your family. Like,
my disappointment was probably, in my opinion, it took me to finally say, this is done.
Yeah.
Out of other people in the room, multiple people, not just the family members, it was finally like, this is nonsense.
Yeah.
This is out of control. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, that's the core. I said this, season 1, I don't change. We've said this already.
Right.
I've been speaking the same tune for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And we needed an adult in the room in multiple scenarios throughout this whole journey. That never came. And it just finally ran its course. And it's sad though. And that's the thing I want to say one more time though. It is sad. Like, we can go into the positives real quick. This could be our transition, but, like, there was a lot of fun though too.
A lot of fun.
Meet a lot of cool people. Went to a lot of cool places
that you have, like, that you had, that we had. They just wouldn't have been possible without the show. Experiences
like people call them. People will say, like, "Oh, you guys went to Costa Rica. How'd you pay for that?" Like, when you're on TV, you're not always paying for those things. Those are trade outs. Right. The resort wants to show off their amenities. So, like, we were able to do amenities and excursions or whatever that no one else was doing, or people can do, but, like, we would have never done some of these excursions if it wasn't in the context of the show. And that was awesome. We got to meet a lot of cool people. I've been to the Portland Timbers, meet the general manager, the coach. I got into a lot. You can get into a lot of rooms when you're famous, or have television. Famous. I
know we like to use that because it's weird. But
you know me, I'm not dramatic, but I'm going to say it like, when
people know who you
there's
are.
There's not a lot of rooms I can't. There's a lot of rooms in this world. I'm not saying like the elite world, but like in this world, there's not a lot of rooms I can't walk into and someone doesn't know my name or they will give me the time of day just simply on the fact. Probably their wife watches me on Tuesday nights in their living room. Okay. But like, when, it's just true. It's, I don't want to sound like I'm not trying to sound privileged. Like I'm acknowledging the privilege there. Right, like there's not a lot of rooms, that, we'd say this all the time. You walk into a restaurant.
I think the important thing though there is I truly believe, not just you, but your whole family. I really believe your whole family. Cause I think that you guys have all had this opportunity to walk into any room and be known, but you've always been responsible with it. Like there's never been a situation that I can recall. You could have gone a lot of ways. And we've talked about this before. Like this sort of fame or acknowledgement in the wrong hands, money in the wrong hands could have gone very badly. It could have been, detrimental to the person that the wrong person that this had fallen into their lap. It has come, like we've talked often about, like when I stepped on the scene, I could have taken it a lot of different ways. I kind of like was dropped into social media and like, here's this huge following of people who are interested in your life. And I could have done a lot of different things.
I should have said that about you. I'm the one that says that about you.
But I think that the same goes for you and your family. I think one of the things when I first met you, and one of like the first times we did an interview together, and I remember being like, well, what should I wear? Like, how should I do my makeup? And your mom and your sister were both just like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was wild that they just did their own makeup. And Molly was always like, oh, you like, they've offered to give us hair and makeup, but we've always said no. And I remember being like, why? Like, why wouldn't you? But then now that I've gotten to know you guys and like been a part of this, it's amazing. Like, because you just didn't care. Yeah. And I say that in the nicest way, but you didn't care. You didn't care about how you looked. You didn't. And I think that's what people loved about your family. Like, you were real.
We gave up. Or not gave up, but it's like we gave up. They tried harder.
Oh, they did. I remember they gave us a whole, like, they had tried to teach me. I don't do makeup. I'm not a makeup person. It's just not something of my interest. And they sent me to classes to learn how to do my makeup. And do you know how much I took away from that? Like,
but you shouldn't, like, you just taking the class was different than us.
I know. But I think that's like, you guys have always stayed so grounded. And that's one of the things
I think, my mom and dad did a good job there. And like, I think for the most part, all of us have a pretty good understanding of finances, and like it's Dave Ramsey. It's
and I will say there's been a lot of things that we don't agree with that has happened with the show. However, you do have to give your dad a lot of credit for like teaching you guys about finances.
I would say my dad, based on some other, maybe it could happen to other people. My dad knew what $1. I always say it to people. My dad knew what $1 looked like. Yeah. And he knew what it felt like to be on camera. Some people, you stick a camera in front of them and they'll go crazy right off the bat. Right. He knew how that felt. So it didn't take him. It wasn't distracted by that. Yeah. He was able early on, certain things. Right. He was able to say, I know what you're not fooling me. Not fooling, but like I know what this is. Reality television can be like that. You can find any family under the sun.
They'll do anything.
And people will do anything. Yeah. You see it all the time. This is normal. You see it all the time on camera in sports shows or live TV or whatever it is, game shows. People go silly to be on camera, whatever it takes. That's a honor to be on camera, on television.
And I do think that was the perception that I had when I first met you and your family. And to realize that that's not at all what you guys are about, I think that was huge. Like that's...
Yeah, we definitely, did not jump all into the TV world.
Yeah.
Just being on TV for as long, and maybe you can call it not ambition or lack of ambition or whatever it is, but
I don't think you were ambitious to be a reality TV star.
And that was my issue. I always I always resisted telling people I was on TV. Even now, people ask me.
It's like a weird, because like in our world, we're so normal. We're not that exciting. We're so normal. We're so average. And like, to talk about it with our friends is awkward sometimes. Yeah. It's sometimes awkward to talk about what we do and who we are. It's so
unrelatable though. It's so unrelatable. But it's also,
and like, I think as humans, you want to be relatable. You crave to have community. And so there's certain things that like, you just don't talk about.
Even today, I would feel foolish. I'm awkward when people say, what do you do? I'll like, either I'm like, you know what I do, or I do reality television. And the most interesting thing about me is the one thing I don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
Like it's the one thing I can go to a party and say, and people like, which is sad. That's, teachers should be paid more. The guy that fixes the road, you have a much cooler job than me or more important job than me, but no one wants to talk about your job. People want to talk about what I do and I'm just entertaining. I laugh. Our neighbors build roads.
Fix roads, build.
We're out in, Southwest Washington, out in the country here.
Right.
And we're in our backyard filming reality television and their workers are looking over their fence line, going,
what are those roll-offs up to today?
What the hell is going on here? Okay. That's
true.
Like, and they're making people move. They're making the economy operate. They are changing the world. Right. Okay. They're making commerce.
but
And
to
we're
say
fooling
that,
around over here.
I'm glad you said that though, because I do hope and pray that the show did bring something to change the world. Like you're saying, they changed the world by fixing roads. Yeah. And I really do. I hope and pray that like, and I think it has. I look at your family and I think it has changed how the world looks at people with dwarfism, and it's changed. And I think that that's one of my biggest things that I think I didn't love towards the end of filming was I do believe that it got away from that. It got away from this idea that I'm going to show what the day in a life of a person with dwarfism looks like and feels like, and I'm going to show the world how I being you, Zach, go about my day. Yeah. And I feel like it got away from that. And even when we first started dating, I still believe it. Yes, it turned more towards a relationship show because obviously people were interested in who you were dating. But I still think it was like an educational program of, there can be two people of different stature that still find love and do life together. Yeah. And that's interesting because people don't see that every day. I agree with you. I also will say, though, sometimes just being on television is education. Yeah. Even though what you're talking about is not the topic, just that visual of someone with a disability like ours, just being on TV can be very powerful to a lot of people. That's what a ton of people strive for, is to get on television. And the fact that you were on TV on its own, might not regret, because I was young, I'm not going to put that pressure on myself. Right. But I do wish I realized more early on the empowerment I mostly, because I'm a boy, gave young dwarf or boys with dwarfism, that empowerment I gave just by seeing someone that had their same condition on television. 100%. And they were able to show their friends. And I wish, you're young, you don't know any better. I wanted to be left alone. I was a teenager, but I wish I embraced that more. Isn't that kind of a beautiful thing though, that you can look back on the show? Because I have seen it. I'm not going to lie. I've seen the show before. Like I was on it, and this is a topic though. We should talk about that one episode. Isn't this kind of a beautiful thing though, that you can watch yourself fall in love, and I say this humbly, find your confidence because of who you met, and become this confident man. Like man, that's fun. I think that that's so cool to be able to like. Because you don't know, like you don't know when you're young that you're going to help all these young men and boys and, whatever. But I think that you did help them just by being there and just by like unfolding your life for those young boys to watch. I think that that's huge. That's like such a big. Yeah. And I wish I embraced that more. I don't think I did a bad job or anything, but like, as any boy teenager would, like, but I think you reacted how they would have reacted. Yeah. Totally. So that, but anyway, back to the positives. Can I say one con though? Can I say one con that's like, for me, a huge, that was very difficult for me to go through with filming. Do you remember this? No. It is very difficult as a woman to have kids. Like that whole process, your whole body, your life, everything that you do when you get pregnant and have a child changes. Like that was the hardest thing for me. I think filming is literally watching myself on national television get bigger and bigger and bigger, more uncomfortable. Like the end of my pregnancy with Lila, I was so done with life. I was just like, get this thing out of me, and so miserable. And to watch that back is so hard. It's so difficult to like, I think the average mom doesn't like, you see like the occasional photo of yourself, but I like watched myself in 2 pregnancies, 3 pregnancies. Oh, and that was so that's super interesting. Difficult. You should have opened with that. And that's super vain. I get that, but it is like, it's like relatable. Women like your bodies transform. And I had to figure that out like on my own, but then also while the whole world watched. That was impossible. And I still look back, and that was like the hardest the hardest thing to film for
That's
me.
interesting. That's actually fascinating.
Yeah. What was the hardest thing you ever filmed? What was the most difficult thing?
Oh, I don't want to go there. Lots.
Okay, then what's the best thing you've ever filmed? What was your favorite thing that you filmed?
Oh, the Europe trip was fun.
Oh, yeah.
Meeting the Bayern Munich team.
Oh.
Mark Van Bommel was the captain at the time. I still have a signed jersey. And I think Philipp Lahm, if you're German out there, you guys know these names. Philipp Lahm, or is Thomas Mueller? No, sorry. Bastian Schweinsteiger. He played for Chicago Fire later on in his career. It was him and Mark Van Bommel signed my jersey.
That's pretty cool.
That was pretty cool for me.
Is that the same trip that you wore a kilt?
Same trip I wore.
Okay, actually, I know I'm interrupting a lot. Can I tell you one of my favorite scenes ever from LPV Dub?
What?
My favorite all-time scene is you and Jeremy on the Autobahn. And you fell asleep and Jeremy scared you. I died when I watched that scene. I could watch that over and over again and just laugh.
That was another thing about being on television. You just brought up a great point, though.
Yeah.
Like, so everyone watched that scene of him waking me up or whatever and me getting startled.
What's your problem?
And so they so that's what you think the most exciting thing about that road trip was. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what you saw. Brain, that's what they showed. This is, again, not a hit on reality television. It's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
But that trip, we saw these huge mountains. We had all these experiences. Like when I think of that road trip, I don't think about that moment.
Right. Yeah.
But that is what everyone talks about.
Yeah.
And so what is reality? Mm-hmm. Reality was actually, I saw these massive Swiss Alps mountains, huge mountains, and saw this beautiful landscape.
Did anyone
That's
else
what
see
I remember.
That?
And that's what I remember that being as the climax of that day. But that moment with Jeremy did happen, and that was legitimate.
Right.
You know, so see how the emphasis
can be totally
emphasis
different.
Is not reality.
Yeah.
Just the way the television works. Yeah. But I like looking back, I would do it again.
Yeah.
I don't watch the episodes though. You know,
I know I always had to.
I think I've only watched, I could put my hand up right now and say I've probably only physically watched 15.
Yeah.
15 or 20 full episodes. I was always kind of embarrassed or shy or like, I didn't.
You weren't built for reality TV.
I wasn't built for it.
And I think that's why people like you. I think that's why people like us, because it's not really like we don't aspire to be reality TV stars.
It is tough. It's tough to be even social media star or a podcaster. It takes a certain
comparison is the thief of joy. That's
your life. Normal lives do not have an episode once a week.
Yeah.
Something happened that would be worthy of an episode once a week.
Yeah.
You know, that's not
100%.
normal life.
Oh my gosh, Joe.
That's not normal.
All these interruptions today, man.
Yeah, that's not normal reality. You know, that's not. So looking back, it's time to move on. I don't regret it.
I think that we're really excited for this. Like, this is cool too, because now we get to share our perspective on situations, like when things happen.
We'll probably talk about this more because it was such a big part.
Such a huge part.
It was such a huge part. I don't like talking about it, but under these circumstances,
and I think
it might be easier.
I think for context in a lot of things, like there's so many like you're right. There's tons of things on the internet that are true, but there's also so many misconceptions, and there's so many things that are put on the internet about our family that are really difficult to sit back and just let them go. Like, it's hard. And so I think that, you know, as things come up, this is our opportunity to put the record straight. And
totally,
you know,
in my mind, that's interesting. We can have a whole topic on fans.
I know.
And the relationship.
We were going to talk about fans today and we didn't.
So maybe we'll have to follow up on all this.
I know. We will. We'll definitely, you know, come back to it. But I think that, again, we're excited for the next journey. We're excited to move on. And yeah, it was a good run.
It was a good run. Yeah, we'll see what comes up next. So,
but let us know what you guys think about like what more you want to hear about this topic. Let us know your thoughts and what y'all are excited about and what you're not excited about.
Yeah.
And
so what's their close off?
Yeah.
Forget that.
All right. Well, thank you. for listening to Raising Heights again, coming back. Make sure you like and subscribe. Follow us on social media, Raising Heights, Zach and Tori Roloff. Yeah. Do your best.
Forget the rest.
We've got to do it together. We've got to do it together.
Saying.
Okay, ready? Do your best.
Do your best.
Forget the rest.